There is frequently a tendency to search for the origin of a discourse. This is based on the belief that beyond and behind the apparent beginning of the discourse lies its distant origin. Foucault debunks this tendency to seek the origin of the discourse. According to Foucault, what is important is the discourse, not where and how it originated, especially when its origin is a mythical one. Similarly, there is a tendency to search for the already said in the discourse. The theme of the already said is the effort to find every discourse as a restatement of some previous discourse, and that discourse as a restatement of some other previous discourse, some other even more previous discourse. The two processes are closely interlinked. The search for origin and the theme of the already said. Foucault debunks these two tendencies and declares that every discourse should be met with at its point of eruption. A discourse is valid for what it is, not for its supposed source, supposed origin, not for the alleged fact that it is a restatement of some other previous discourse. Michel Foucault thus effectively challenges some of the foundational categories of the Western intellectual world, categories such as science, literature, philosophy, religion, politics, book, and oeuvre. How does Foucault achieve this? Foucault achieves this by bringing to the humanities the rigorous methodologies that have always been the stock in trade of the sciences. Foucault makes a systematic application of the methodologies of the sciences, and this is what has enabled him to achieve the spectacular success that he has achieved. What are these methodologies? They are the methodology of analysis, the methodology of atomization, the methodology of evaluation. By applying to the humanities the methodologies of the sciences, Michel Foucault succeeds in spectacularly demolishing some of the foundational categories of the Western intellectual world. And it is a task which is as impressive as it is revolutionary. Having placed a strong question mark over some of the foundational concepts of the Western intellectual world, Foucault decides to water down his position a little. He says that these categories like science, literature, philosophy, religion, politics, book, oeuvre, cannot be banished completely. We have questioned the concepts. We have challenged the categories. This does not mean that the categories must disappear. We have to understand that all we can do is to disturb the tranquility with which these categories are accepted as unities, we must realize that each of these categories is not a tranquil locus, but a cluster of questions. We must understand that these categories may not be, in the last resort, what they appear to be at first sight. Foucault conceives that these categories require a theory, and this theory cannot be constructed unless the field of discourse on the basis of which these facts are built up appears in its non-synthetic purity. Let me try to paraphrase what Foucault says here. We have questioned some of the foundational categories of the Western intellectual world. We have challenged these foundational concepts. We have placed question marks over each of these unities. But that does not mean that these unities have suddenly ceased to exist. The categories have been questioned, but the field remains exactly as it remained before we posed our challenge. I don't know whether I am making myself clear. Just because we have challenged the unity called politics, it does not mean that the field has ceased to exist. The field is still there. And the field requires a theory. And this theory can be constructed only when the facts of the field appear in their non-synthetic purity. Only when the facts of the field are not allowed to synthesize artificially, to homogenize falsely. Once we succeed in shaking the solidity of these categories, in disturbing the unity of these concepts, we can freely construct theories relating to them.